Alright, Fieldwork Update has now been released, and also the pack. So let's talk about what's free, what's part of DLC. Let's get started. Alright, so I was fortunate enough to be able to do a sneak peek of the Protec Fusion Reactor, which is this item right over here, which is a free block that's going to be part of the Fieldwork Update. And it's got a port in the back and one also towards the bottom front area right in this section here. So of course this does house hydrogen. As you see, it's filling up and its maximum output is 400 megawatts. So of course one thing we didn't really test in that sneak peek is how much liters per second does it take. Alright, so we're going to put it to test to see how quickly this drains with a maximum output of 400 megawatts and a filled tank of 150 liters. I put in a whole bunch of Protec thrusters, and once I turn it on, we'll get it kind of drained out as soon as possible. I'll try to put a timer on the side so we can see how long it takes to drain the whole entire system. Alright, in 3, 2, 1, on. Let the draining begin. And done. So it roughly took, I counted in my head, about 2 minutes, so 120 seconds roughly. I don't know for sure that's the accurate number. It'll be shown right here. What does that mean in terms of megawatts per liter? Not smart enough to get that formula. So of course, leave a comment down below if you know that calculation. But yeah, that's the first item in terms of our free content for Fieldwork Update 206. Next up, we have the anticipated large grid small connector, which is this right here. So it's got a decent amount of ports on it as well. Kind of similar to the inset connector, the large one, where it has the connector point there, and then you have 2 ports, one in the back and one on the bottom or side, whichever way you want to look at it. So this is going to be a lot better in terms of not causing or summoning clang when we put these on a rotor and try to connect the small connector on it. So then we now have that solution to avoid that issue. It does come in both large grid format and small grid format, so more ways to connect stuff. Next, we also have a refill station. So the refill station right here, which looks amazing, has the LCD, which you can change it, tanks, and some cables right down there. And this is mainly used for charging up your O2, your power, and your hydrogen. So of course, you can slap on an O2 generator, hydrogen tank, oxygen tank, and get yourself charged up. It won't heal you, by the way. And one big caveat is that it is a lesser version of a survival kit, but you do need a superconductor, at least 4 of them, to make this one. And of course, this is the inset refill station, so it has ports on all sides, basically. You can always get that connected anywhere and get charged up. But there's also a regular variation of it, a non-inset one, and this is the refill station right over here. So it's kind of like a half-centered, half-block type of situation. Not even a half-block, it's more like a quarter block, if anything. And it has a port right in the back. So same thing, you could just refill here, your O2 power and hydrogen. There's also a small grid version that looks exactly like the large grid version. And of course, you see right on my right-hand side, a projector that tells you what direction it's going. So they revamped the visuals of it. So you do have a projector that's going to tell you what's right side, what's left side, what is top or going forward. And there's one on the bottom as well, which is located underneath right there with the arrow to say what's going forward with that bit of a triangle mark over there. And then you also have a control panel already on it. So no more creating control panels on it or next to it or whatever the case is. And it'll be easier to maneuver your projections much easier. There is a smaller variation as well. So here is the smaller variation. And instead of the control panel, you have this little circular control panel here. And sorry, it's rolling away, but it is doing what it's got to do. Kind of acting like a bit of a soccer ball at the moment. But yeah, new updates on the details of the projector, which is very helpful. And of course, lastly, we have the free O2 tank here, the oxygen tank. It is pretty much a replica of the large tank As you see here, it's got the 4 dots to indicate how much oxygen is in there. It says oxygen on there as well. It's got the 2 ports, left and right, or top and bottom, versus the original small grid oxygen tank, which is this large thing here, which is now converted to that small tank. I find it funny because it is relatively the size of your oxygen tank that you can store in your inventory. Surprised they didn't skin it to be kind of like the oxygen bottle. I think that would have probably looked a little bit better, but still, nonetheless, we needed a smaller variation than this thing here. Alright, so other things that you're getting will be things like new unknown signal overhauls, cargo ships encounter overhaul. It's kind of like a mid-tier encounter or threat situation before you get to the whole Prototech and Factorum. So here's I believe this is an example of an unknown signal that I found recently. So unfortunately, I didn't have much footage of unknown signals and also the new cargo ships. But of course, we're going to have that in a series coming up soon, so we can explore those together. And they also did increase planetary encounters. So hopefully that works a little bit better than the previous spawn rates. Which of course, I have a video on how to increase them anyways. But of course, we got to take a look at the config file to see, loosely glanced at it. And it's roughly still 15 to 30 minute spawn. But if you want to increase that, you could always use the video that I created previously. Alright, it's time to announce the winners of the Fieldwork Pack. And they are Ant Warrior, Ari C, Mindless, Mr. Awesome, Matt Price, and Mildrill Fade. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So of course YouTube doesn't have a way to direct message you guys, except for if you already have a channel and I was able to find your email. So look in your inbox for those who do have an email. And for those who didn't have an email, I sent you a reply on the comment so you could get a notification. Ask you to send me a quick little email, which you can find on my YouTube homepage in the About section. And I may ask you to do a quick little confirmation that it's you who made that comment. So if you're not a winner of this giveaway, check out Andrew Man Gaming. He's doing a giveaway as well. So of course, enter there. And for those who won on this channel and prefer not to use the key, send me a quick reply and I'll give it to the next person on the list. Alright, so next up is going to be some new blocks. But these new blocks are actually more part of a bridge set windows added for the contact pack. So if you have the contact pack, you should be able to get these bridge windows. So they give us a little bit more variations of these bridge windows. So you have one right here. It is the floorless corner piece because we only had a floored version of it. And then you have the raised one. So that's like the half block one. Another corner piece here. And also a 2x1 variation. Corner piece 2x1 base floorless one, which is the right side versus the left side. And this was a new one, which gives you a little bit more ability to put windows on there. You have a floor version and a floorless one right over here. So these bridge windows are additions to the contact pack, which will make life a little bit easier with certain builds, especially one of my builds, the flying brick. And of course, we got a bunch of stuff through the Fieldwork Pack, the lab blocks. So let's go through some of the functional ones and then the decorative ones. So one item that wasn't announced until the live stream with the trailer is this item right here. This here is a cargo terminal. So this is a very, very useful operational item because it is going to give us an ability to get some items through a conveyor or any other ports that are kind of blocked out, such as conveyor junctions. So these have the ports, but of course you can't click on them or collect any items. But now, with the introduction of the cargo terminal, we can throw it on the conveyor and grab stuff from the cargo terminal from a cargo container or any other item. So this is a very much needed item, very useful in my opinion. It's got 15,625 liters of space in the large one. And also there's a half block version, which is this, which is probably pretty much half of the liters, so 7,500 in this case. There's no small grid version of this, so it's just large grid, but that's more than useful. So there are some decorative functional blocks, such as the O2H2 system that's kind of revamped into this 2x2x1 block here, which is pretty cool. Gonna generate your hydrogen, oxygen through this here, and you could also kind of call this pack the lab pack or the bubbles pack, as you'll see more of this going through the items. So this one here, it's got kind of almost a similar look to the original O2H2 generator, with this inside big valve system, control panels. There's this port right over here and the opposite side of it. Same with the slimmer side on the opposite side as well. That's your new O2H2 generator. A little bit bigger than the original, but It's got that nice bubble look right over there. It does have a small grid variation, so it's going to be this right here. It's kind of the size of the same O2H2 generator. Just looks a little bit different, as one probably is oxygen, one is hydrogen in terms of the valves. One question I have, does it bubble when you turn it off? And the answer is, it does turn off. Ah, did not expect that to happen, but that's great. If you turn it back on, let the bubbles flow. Alright, so another functional block is this right over here, which is going to be the lab small hydrogen tank. So it is basically the same size as a large grid small hydrogen tank, but it's going to look like this right over here, which much better design look. Has that tank and the H2 symbol, a valve system right over there, and it's going to look the same on both sides. And the port is going to be located at the bottom of the tank on the right hand side, or the left hand side, depending on which way you have it looking at it, and also on one edge of the tank. So if you flipped it over to the side like this, it'll be the port on the bottom here and one towards the back. And of course, you're going to redesign the hydrogen tank, you must well redesign the oxygen tank. So here we got a double tank system with the O2 symbol with the control panel here, and it's going to look the same on both sides. And of course, the ports are located on the underside of the tanks. Okay, and of course, your small hydrogen tank will carry 1,000,000 liters of hydrogen in the small tank, same as the original one. And the oxygen tank will carry 100 liters of oxygen, which is same as the large grid small oxygen tank as well. And before I go too far, this is another variation of a large hydrogen tank for small grid form. And this one's called the lab hydrogen tank. It's going to carry roughly 500 liters of hydrogen. Right, so what else is operational in terms of the Fieldwork Pack? We have lab doors. It's going to be transparent and tinted, depending on which direction you put it on. So there's two variations of it. So you have inverted and normal. And this is pretty much a door. So nice, thin sliding doors, which is pretty cool. It'd be funny if you could kind of walk through it and break the glass, but that's not going to happen. And of course, another functional item is this door right over here, which is called the corridor round door, which is basically a hatch door, but rounded. And last thing that not necessarily operational, but moves, is your lab freezer. So when I say move, I just mean the doors. And finally, the last operational or functional item is going to be this thing, this bath looking like thing, which is the lab vat, which actually acts very similar to a cryo chamber. So you can hear the sounds inside. And look inside, you'll see the bubbles, and that's what I mean by bubbles pack. So of course you could charge up here and everything like that. It's got the port on the back side of it. So you could also lay it down to make it look pretty decently, where you'll see there's a port on this end and the opposite end. So there's 3 ports on this thing. If you lay down on it, kind of laying down, it'll just look like this. You're just kind of floating bed-like. But it definitely looks a little better when you stand it up, for sure. So what happens if it's turned off? Will the bubbles go away? Well, you can't really turn it off, because if you go here, look at the lab vat, there's no options to turn it off. If you plopped it on straight on your station without it being connected, with, like I did here, bubbles are not on, you can't get into it, so it's pretty much off that way. So, but again, there's no on-off button for this thing. And of course, if we want to talk about bubbles, we got more of them right over here. One that has 4 individual tanks on its own. This is the Lab Experiment A. The Lab Experiment A doesn't have any ports. It has no functionality as well. It's more decorative, as you see here. But once again, more bubbles. You got a little bit of fans inside. You got your controls here, but they're actually not functional. And of course, if we could turn it off, will the bubbles still be on? The answer is no. So that's awesome. And what else we got? You guessed it, more bubbles. And this one is Experiment B. And when we say decorative, it's just basically a water tank. Looks like you can get in from here, but it doesn't really open currently. It's just, again, decorative block. Kind of curious to see what that is. The MGW. I've seen it on a couple of these blocks. That takes care of most of the bubbles pack piece. And of course, we have this. which we've seen in sneak peek, which is awesome because one, you have spinning units, a nice little plasma laser beam like thing, and a bunch of different decorations on there. So this is not functional whatsoever. More decorative pieces here, and this is actually going to be experiment C. So 2 variations. You can lay it down, you can stand it up like this. It's got these cool little tanks here. That same symbol we see in most of these lab pieces. And if we go up this thing, it's enclosed, so you can't burn yourself. So don't worry about getting too close to it. And here's the wall side or back side. It's got that same like symbol right there. And guess what? It's got the same initial piece there, the MGW. Well, is that all? Nope, it doesn't stop there. We still got a lot more to go through because we also have these new caps. So these are called exhaust caps. And of course, there's 2 variations of it. You have large grid and also small grid. I'm not sure if there's a glitch right now, but I cannot spawn in a small grid except for placing them on actual small grids. But of course, with the exhaust caps, you can actually change what it is. So right now it's car smoke, so we could do electric arc, fire and smoke, and etc. So this acts exactly like an exhaust pipe, except this is more of a cap, so something flat, as you see here. But of course, you won't get zapped or anything like that touching it. Next, we have some decorative pipe work right here. So kind of continue on with industrial work, pipe works. So you have a good variation of these pipes. So you have one right over here. It is the pipe end, which is a full block or half block piece that has caps on it. You have pipe downs, which is this little C-shaped pipe right over here. You have a straight 1 and your straight number 2 with the valve. You have a corner pipe system, a junction pipe system, and of course an upwards pipe system or pipe up. So it's kind of like a larger variation of pipe down. These are non-functional. Again, they're just decorative blocks to kind of detail out your industry, your facilities, and things like that. In addition to that, you also have these new blocks here, floor centers, floor edges, floor passages that has a little bit of details on them. So as you see here, floor edge and floor passage, you have a little bit of the decals or color changes right here. And right now I'm using like a plain white weldless, and that's what it gave us. So even you changed it to, let's say, silver, the middle piece gets changed, but not the outer piece. You can change the other things like the hazard armor, which doesn't give you the hazards anymore. Corrugated, as you see there, or concrete, frost, any different skins, which will kind of color mostly the inside piece, but keep the same color on the outside. Well, I guess minus the frost on this, but you get what I mean in terms of the different colors and things like that. There's also a floor decal one right here, and that can change in terms of colors and skin, same as the rest, but except for the yellow line here and the hazard line here. So, and of course, you go crazy with going the hazard armor or skin. It changes the outer piece. The decal stays the same. Everything else changes in a sense. And there's a big old slab version of it as well. So this here is the 3x3 slab floor, which has the corner bits here. So kind of like your dance floor in a sense, but it's a big grid. There's also small grid variations of them as well, which is very interesting. So you have a floor centers right here. Has a little bit of color on each side. You got your 3x3 slab, so of course your 3x3 small grid. But as you can see here, the floor center has kind of the edge version of it as well, but it's more like which way you place them, as you see here. So that's your new flooring, new decorations. And then second to last, we get a bunch of the lab desks, which is pretty cool. A chairless lab desk. You have a lab desk corner, microscope lab desk, sink, and cabinet, and also the freezer itself. And last but not least, we have rounded corridors. So opening this door here, which is the corridor door as we spoke before, we have a different variations of rounded corridors which we can walk through instead of squared ones or passages and things like that. So you get a good variety of them. So you have the door right here. You have the regular round. You have a round with lights. So if you look up, you see the light system right over here. We get a corridor around the corner, so we can make a corner turn. We get a T-shaped one, which you have 3 different entrances. We also have an X, which is going to be your intersection piece. And lastly, you have the transition piece. So what is the transition piece? It is actually half round and half traditional corridor. So you can transition it to a regular corridor passageway like so. And you'll see how smooth it kind of creeps right into it. There's other stuff that's included in the update as well. As I mentioned before, was the cargo ships, unknown signals, kind of give a mid-tier type of encounter. Planetary encounters have been reworked, so it should increase a little bit more. We'll put that to the test in future videos. There are a lot of different other quality of life changes as well. Things like changing of colors of like lights and things like that is an example. So if we put interior light right over there, and we selected the light and put it into our action bar here or toolbar. No, we can set color now. So if we have it selected, it'll be frost green, and it actually names it. That's pretty interesting. And then you set up different actions to it. So if we did that, we could change, we could put another one here to set color. And we say, let's just say red. And it names it for you. So you can transition from the forest green to your red. And of course, why not have your yellow as well? And as you can imagine, you can do a lot of things with this, especially put into action, your setup actions, timers, things like that. There's also, I believe, propulsions or wheel propulsions that you can set. So lots of different changes. You can also set your keybinds to mimic Space Engineers 2. Where you can hold control and rotate your items instead of using your home page up, page down kind of situation. That is the Fieldwork update. Don't forget also that there is an event going on where you can collect skins, which will give you a chance to get your rare skins quickly until May 30th. Alright, so good luck hunting for the Prototech Fusion Reactor, your skins, and hope you enjoy the Fieldwork update and pack. Of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.